What's going on? So today, it's after work, so we're gonna make cocktails. And while we make cocktails, we're gonna talk about probably one of the other biggest questions that we get, as especially beginner RVers. How much does this cost, like, for you to do this?
Yeah. And is it worth it compared to owning a home before?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. That's what everybody wants to know.
Because bills are different, everything is different. The way you count money is different. So we're not going to go through every expense, right? Like how much our motorhome costs and insurance, that sort of stuff is
because you can control all of that.
Yes, and it's different for everybody.
That's what I mean. You can have more control over that.
Let me get ice, and while I'm getting ice, talk to them about what we are actually, the costs that we're actually going to talk about.
So we've been tracking expenses, a lot of expenses for our own personal use. We're not going to talk about all of those, but we're going to talk about some of the key things that people care about. They care about fuel. They care about, and of course, that's related to how many miles you drive. So we're going to share how many miles we drive to, the cost of the fuel. Because, again, so cost of fuel is relative to where you're traveling in the country.
Exactly.
So we'll talk about where we were, because a lot of people are curious about where we've been on this journey. We're going to do 6 months from March to August.
Because we bought this on February 29th, moved into it that day, and have been full-time since.
So all of March through the absolute end of August. So a full 6 months picture is what we're going to share with you.
How's that for a beautiful gin and tonic?
Yes, purple.
That is Empress Gin. If you've never tried this blue gin, it's Empress 1908 gin and elderflower tonic water. Q. Anyway.
Yep.
That's usually her drink of choice.
So then there's also how much did we pay to stay places, because that is a common question too.
Fuel costs and nightly stays. That's probably the biggest.
Those two things. And we're going to break it down into how many miles we traveled, what our fuel cost was across those miles, where we were, so that you have an idea of where we were in the country, how many nights we paid for in a month, because we are getting some benefits between friends and programs that we've joined, and the total cost. And then the average that comes to per day in a month.
All right, so let's start with March.
Yep.
How much money did we spend on lodging?
Lodging in March, $143.
And where were we?
We were in Clarks Hill. We were in Daytona. And we were at my mom's house.
Yep. How many nights that month did we actually pay for, though?
11.
So we only paid for 11 nights. And
which was at the Corps of Engineer Park.
Which was really cheap.
So we stayed at the Corps of Engineer Park. So let's talk about Thousand Trails. So we stayed for a week in Daytona. Not on the beach, but we were still in Daytona. Which, no matter where you stay, is usually, it's a tourist destination, so it's a little more expensive. And we stayed there for free for a week because of Thousand Trails. So that is a membership program you can join.
We'll probably do a video specifically on that.
Various costs. We are trying to take advantage of it because we got it for free when we purchased our motorhome at Lazy Days in Tampa. So we haven't decided if it's worth what it would cost us or even understand what it would cost us exactly. But since we have it, we are trying to take advantage of that. That was the first time we used it. In March, those locations that we traveled 1,180 miles. And our fuel cost was $306. So that was a good break-in month, right? Like, we didn't know what we were getting into. So total fuel, $306. Total lodging, $143. Like, and we were paying over average for the month was only like $5 a day. And we were like, we got this.
Well, when most of it was free.
I mean, it's still, when you're looking at the average per day.
Yeah.
That felt good.
Yeah.
Nothing.
April.
We didn't go anywhere.
0 miles.
We were totally quarantined
Yep.
at my mom's house.
Yep.
Nothing. The only expenses we had in April, we did have fuel, $78 for the month. So that must be how much it cost us to go back and forth
To the dump station. That's exactly what it was.
So funny.
Yep. We had to drive like 15 or 20 miles to get to the dump station. And at 6 miles to the gallon, doing that once a week, I can see spending $75 for fuel just to run back and forth.
I actually think
It
we
might
probably
be-
didn't need fuel this day. We probably got fuel because he wanted to weigh it full. And
That's
we did
exactly
weigh it.
right.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even really need fuel. I just wanted fuel. That's
I think
right.
That's true.
So maybe we didn't even spend any. Well, that's an easy month.
All right. So May, you ready?
Yep.
May, we drove 902 miles that month.
Where did we go?
We went to Myrtle Beach,
Yep.
Clarksville, Gainesville, Florida, and my mom.
I sold a guitar, or I built a guitar for a guy, and we had to bring it to Florida. That's right. Again, this was during COVID. There was not a whole lot of travel. It was mostly free, except for we stayed in a KOA for a week in Gainesville, Florida. So that wasn't super cheap.
Neither was Myrtle Beach.
And Myrtle Beach was not cheap either.
Yeah. So fuel for those 902 miles was $229. So we paid for 16 days that month.
Mm-hmm.
But our total lodging for May was $450.
Still awesome.
Yeah. So then we jumped. We went from $5 per day average to $0 per day average to $14.50.
On to June.
June miles, 1,706. Clarksville.
Yep.
Chattanooga.
Yep.
Nashville.
Yep.
Memphis. Kansas. Alma, Kansas. And Colorado Springs.
Yep.
That was
a long distance.
Yeah.
How much did we spend for fuel?
$640.
So that's interesting. $640. It sounds like it would be more because we went further, but fuel was cheaper. Fuel was cheaper through the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
Until you get to Colorado, then it starts to get more expensive. But yeah, lodging though was pretty interesting. How many nights did we pay for during that time?
22 nights in June.
So that's 3 weeks. Yeah.
Because 8 of those were with a friend.
Yep.
Or actually a couple friends in that lineup.
Yep.
So that was very helpful. So the total lodging for June was $692.
Yes. And that is because Colorado Springs, we were in a holiday rate because we stayed close to 4th of July.
The week we were there went up into
Holiday rates. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So that was $23 per day average for June.
July. I don't even want to know.
July.
I don't even want to know.
It's not even the ugliest one. July. 1,472 miles.
Where do we go?
Colorado Springs, we were still there.
Yep.
Denver. And then Weed, California was the destination.
So that's way northern.
I didn't count all the
California.
hops. I just counted the destination.
Yeah, where we went.
Mhm.
Yep. Cool. And how many miles?
1,472.
Yeah, that was a lot. Yeah,
It was a lot
of miles. And what was fuel for that?
$565.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
That makes sense.
We paid for $15 that month. 15 days that month.
Mm-hmm.
So that was good. We only paid,
paid
for,
for 2
less
weeks.
than half the month.
But what was our total cost for staying?
$907.
Yeah, $900 for 2 weeks of the month.
Because that was the crossover again, Colorado Springs and then Denver.
Yep.
Which both hit 4th of July weekend, like the way we booked it.
And availability was like the most
And so,
expensive
yeah.
park in town.
So we got holiday rates for each of those stays. And then, of course, when you're traveling fast to another destination and just doing stopovers, those overnight stays can be expensive.
For example, we stayed in a KOA in Salt Lake City, and it costs like $90. And we would never spend that much on purpose, but it was just the circumstances. Denver was the same thing. I was there for work, and we just had to pay what we had to pay because we had to be there at that particular time, availability wise.
And of course, we're talking about all obviously, it was during COVID. And so that is why we were trying to get to California. California was our destination. We did some longer days. We did some overnight stays. Like you mentioned, we probably wouldn't have done otherwise, but we had to take what we could get, and we wanted to get to a destination.
Yes. Is that all we're talking about for that month?
For July?
Yep.
Yeah, it was $29, $26 a day.
That's getting up there.
Yeah.
That is getting up there.
All right. So now we're to August.
Mm-hmm.
2,315 miles.
Yeah.
In August, we were in Weed, California. We spent some time in Idaho Falls.
Yep.
Bozeman, Montana.
Yep.
And Rapid City, South Dakota.
And this was an expensive month.
And this was an incredible month.
It was an amazing month. How much did we spend on fuel?
$771.
Because we had to get gas in California 3 times at $3.29 a gallon. I mean, here we're getting it for $1.90 or $2.03 or something. So it was way more expensive. Plus, everywhere is far out there. The West is just bigger.
Yeah.
But that was some of the most amazing times on this trip because Grand Tetons, Yellowstone,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Bonneville Salt Flats,
Custer
State Park. Yeah, South Dakota was unbelievable. Yeah, no, that was amazing. It was worth it.
So for August, we paid for 17 nights. We paid for 17 nights, but our total of lodging was $1,061.
Holy smokes. That's like almost $500 a week.
So that was $34.24 per day average for August.
Yep.
So if we look at the overall, so we wanted to share the 6 months with you. So you just got a lot of numbers and you're like, what the heck does that mean? But if you average out all of that, and we have some personal goals, like we want to do better. We didn't know, you can't plan for COVID, like, but a
lot of it was beyond our control.
We can be smarter. We can be simpler. For instance, this week, if you've been following along, like we're standing in a parking lot. So being flexible, and I think that comes with your comfort level too. Mm-hmm. We're willing to be a little more flexible because we know we can. Anyway, so the average cost per day over the 6 month period came to $17.67 a day,
which ends up being somewhere around $550 or $580 a month.
I think it was $532 or
$532 for lodging, which I'm actually happy with.
Yeah,
I'm actually happy with. $532 a month. That's overall average. I'm pretty happy with that. What about fuel?
So fuel cost average over the 6 months of traveling was $431.
And I'm actually really happy with that too.
Yeah.
Because we did a lot of miles. Mm-hmm. You know. Now that doesn't include road trips in the Jeep and that sort of stuff. That's just for the coach. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we're pretty happy with those numbers on the 6 month average. Mm-hmm. But I think in our next video, we're going to talk to you about some things that we're doing now, some apps we're using, some stuff we're doing, and the way we're planning our trips, even how we travel, the days that we travel, the distance that we travel per trip. All that stuff matters, and I really think the next 6 months is going to be way better.
Yeah.
Now, #COVID, like, that was its whole own thing. Availability in the summertime was insane. Sometimes you're just paying.
And this is going to put us into winter months, and we obviously haven't done this before, so we don't exactly know what that entails.
Right. Another cost that people a lot of times want to know is like, how much do you pay for propane and stuff? We need to fill propane now. We're almost out, but we've only filled it once in 6 months. Mm-hmm. So twice actually it'll be twice in 7 months that we filled it up, and that costs about like $45 every time. The only thing we use propane for is cooking and for our hot water heater, because it's faster. It's awesome. Propane hot water heater. You could use electric, but propane's better, so we just use it for that. And other than that, all those other expenses are going to depend on your personal experience. So your car insurance, your motorhome insurance, your motorhome payment, all those things, and whatever other lifestyle expenses that you have, whether you have a pet, whether you have, we don't have a satellite dish, so we don't pay that bill. There's things that we've done to keep it pretty simple, but the fuel and the cost per night stay is probably the thing that we want to work on.
Yeah. And we wanted to talk about it in the sense of, because you don't know. It's people's biggest questions. That's probably why they ask us all the time. It was probably our own biggest questions. We owned a house in South Carolina. It is super affordable to live there. Property taxes are low. The cost of houses are low there. So we were sitting in a pretty sweet spot. And if we lived anywhere else in the country, we probably would have made this decision faster, because then we knew this would be more affordable.
Yes.
But we were in a super affordable spot, and we were like, I don't know. But I think it came to the point where, because I think some of this has been less than we expected, and some of it has been more, and some of the more we haven't been able to control. But overall, looking at the numbers now, we thought, worst case scenario, if it costs the same as owning a house, we're still traveling. So we couldn't have the house and travel at that cost. So even if it was the same cost, for us, it was worth it, because we were like, oh, we're still going to be traveling. I still think we came out ahead personally for our circumstances. So that has to be something you decide for yourself.
Everybody's circumstance is different, but we just wanted to share that $530 a month to stay someplace, and that $450 a month for fuel. That's pretty indicative of what.
And I think most people aren't going to trek across the country like we did either.
No. And we're going to talk about that in our next video, what we're doing different now, and how the next 6 months, I believe, wintertime notwithstanding, is going to be cheaper. Thanks for hanging out. We're making a video every day this month. Hopefully you can subscribe and like and share and all that kind of stuff. And I know we kind of rambled through this, but, making cocktails, I had an old-fashioned.
Cheers.
And she had a gin and tonic. And
if you have any questions, ask them in the comments below. We're going to be live Sunday at 9:30 p.m.
Yes, Eastern time. And we probably still will have a cocktail. And we will answer your questions live in the chat. And we will try to get to the ones that you leave in the comments of this video. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you next time.